everybody, and welcome to another episode of Insufficient Friends. I'm Kevin. She's Nikki.
Hi.
And Nick, we just did this 30 seconds ago. So we're just gonna jump right into it because we don't have shout outs because we just did them. We can't really talk about a week because we just did it. Because again, we just finished recording what you guys heard as last week's episode. Yep. We're doing two of them in a row because we have
because I'm working softball. Yeah. It's gonna be busy.
Nikki has other obligations. I'm probably just sitting on my sofa at home, to tell you the truth. But it is what it is. But this week we're talking about the 16th president of the United States, Mr. Abraham Lincoln.
Honest Abe.
Honest Abe. And, I don't know why I can't talk right now. I'm going to say he's, would you say he's where would you rank him on the, scale of most well-known? Because I would say he's in, the top 5.
Most well-known?
Yeah.
Top 5, for sure.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you...
If you take out, current, recent presidents or whatever. Because I would say...
historically known.
Yeah. If you see President's Day, it's him in Washington. Those are the two that you always see pictures of. So I would say he's probably within even the top, 3.
3.
I don't even know who you would put... If you take out recent presidents or presidents that are still alive, I don't know who you would really put above him besides George Washington. As far as
I was going to ask you that too.
Old presidents.
My top 3 would be Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln.
Yeah, I don't even know if you put I don't know if I would put Jefferson above him. I think
maybe just because I read more. Yeah. I don't know. He was just always top of mind for me. But I don't know. The presidents have always been very interesting to me. I knew that song as a young kid. 4, I was, my mom taught me the colonies, the states, the presidents. So I was walking around the house singing Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, J.Q. Adams. And I would just sing it constantly. So I've always been interested in them. So I would put Jefferson on my list, but I don't know if he'd be on everyone's list.
Yeah. The only...
As most well known, not as best people ever. Yeah, just as the most well known.
Yeah. The only... I don't think this is old enough. The one that I think that people might think of is JFK because he was assassinated as well.
Yeah.
Again, but I don't know if that's going back far enough, so I don't know.
Yeah.
That was only in...
I would consider him modern.
The 60s, so I'd kind of consider him a modern president as well. So, yeah. As far as going back to old-timey presidents, I don't think I'd consider JFK an old-timey president. So, yeah, I think it'd be Washington and Lincoln. I think those are the...
I wonder where the divide would be. Do you think the divide would be World War I? As far as, divide is, as far as figuring out what's modern versus... Because I feel like that's when society changed a lot. Not just in our country, but in every country.
Yeah, for sure. Either that or probably... Well, the Industrial Revolution was around the same time, so maybe a little bit before that. But probably around that time, early 1900s to World War I, which was kind of close to that same kind of all that time was in the same area. So probably that's what I would guess too. Yeah. So anything pre-1900s, I guess, would be... Yeah, would be...
We're really good historians.
Yeah.
But yeah, Abraham Lincoln has always been very interesting to me. I've been to the museum in Springfield, Illinois. We went when I was 10, maybe.
Okay.
Not young. We went with my cousins. My Aunt Amy took us. Took me, Nathan, Anthony, and Rosie. And I remember, because I don't have a ton of like memory recall from
Mm-hmm.
when I was young,
Yeah.
but I do remember trying on, in the kiddie area, they had like costumes.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember being like Mary Todd Lincoln in like a dress, and the boys being like soldiers or something. Um, so, anyways, yeah, it's been a long time since I've been to this
I
presidential museum.
I would like to go to his museum.
Hmm.
I I've been to DC. We did an evening tour of the monuments, so we did go like
Yeah,
by the Lincoln Memorial at night, where you kind of see it all lit up, which was kind of cool.
it's
And
pretty.
we ate dinner one night at a restaurant near Ford Theater, and for
Hmm.
some reason I don't really know why, where they parked the bus after we left, we walked by Ford Theater. Like we walked right in
Oh,
front of Ford Theater, and as we were walking by, obviously the our teacher, because it was a school trip. It was when I was in middle school, and
hmm.
the teacher who had set it up was my social studies teacher, Mr. Shikani, who was one of my favorite teachers of all time, by the way.
Hmm.
Love Mr. Shikani. But they pointed it out that it's like, oh yeah, that's Ford Theater. Like that's where Abe Lincoln was shot,
Hmm.
um, and all that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I don't. I've never been to to his library in Springfield. I do want to go.
Hmm. Yeah,
Just haven't
it's
ever made it
very
over there.
interesting.
So.
Yeah. So I've always kind of been interested in different presidents, him especially just because that museum is relatively close to us, so I've been to it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he was the 16th president, born in Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
His family moved around a lot, different reasons. I think his father had some health issues, some financial troubles. So they did move around quite a bit between Kentucky, Louisiana, but eventually moved to Illinois, which is why,
Mm-hmm.
his memory is very cemented in Illinois. Um, so he had Lincoln himself not had a lot of formal education, but his, friends and family always said that he had manic intellect, like was so, so smart. And he did eventually, after a couple other little things like owning a general store, he did serve. Um, I don't think he ever actually saw combat, but he did enlist in the militia, but studied law, and eventually owned his own like law practice, ran for a seat on the Illinois state legislature, and was known as very intellectual guy. And then when he was practicing law in Springfield, he met Mary Todd. And so eventually they got married. Her family objected to the marriage. I can't remember why. Um, but I do know that her family objected to it, but they got married anyway and had four sons. And this was always sad to me. Only one actually lived to
Mm-hmm.
adulthood. So there's a whole, separate tangent there with their family was always very like known as being melancholy, and I think there was a lot of sadness in
Yeah.
their family in general, um, partly because of you know, the kids and people passing away. But yeah, he was known as the prairie lawyer. Very Midwest esque nickname.
Yeah.
So he practiced law, eventually went on to serve one term in Congress. There was a lot of things that well, he had a lot of debates. He was known for speaking and became kind of a prominent figure, especially when he was speaking. Stephen Douglas, I think, was one of his like debate rivals, and obviously his anti-slavery platform made him extremely unpopular with Southerners. So when he ran for president and won the presidency in 1860, he didn't have any su- support from any of the Southern. He didn't win any of the Southern states.
Mm-hmm.
So I think at that time, and again, I'm not an American historian. This is just things I've learned over the years. But I think at that time, secession talks were already rampant. But then when you have a president elected that didn't have any support of the Southern states, it took on a very serious tone, I think. So I think that the Civil War, we've talked about the Civil War before
Mm-hmm.
in, one of our episodes and causes of it. Definitely not entirely. It was caused by a multitude of different things.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that someone winning the presidency without any Southern state support
That didn't help
was
anything.
one of the reasons. Yeah. So that was kind of his lead up to his presidency. Obviously, the Civil War started with Fort Sumter. We've done a whole episode on that, so I'm not going to go into it too
Very
much.
insufficient.
But yes. Yeah, we have done a very insufficient episode on the Civil War.
Just like this one is about Abe Lincoln.
Yeah. So throughout the war, this shows in his letters and everything. He struggled a lot with different decisions and finding capable people to support his causes, both in the army and his cabinet or not cabinet. I don't know if they called it cabinet at the time at this point, but like his advisors and things. He struggled with a lot. Similar to, it kind of reminded me of when I went to the Harry Truman Museum recently and they show his letters and how much he struggled with different decisions, especially like nuclear bombing and things like that, like the big, big, big decisions. Just shows like to be president, you truly have to have, I don't know, something that I don't have. I could never make those decisions.
Well, especially during a war, like a wartime like that, I'm sure it's even more difficult.
Yeah. So, eventually, after a couple of years, so after the Civil War, 1863, during the Civil War, he issued his Emancipation Proclamation, which that's probably, would you say that's one of the things he's most well known for? I would say that's probably, besides the fact that he was assassinated and then, marked as a martyr, in United States history, I would say his Emancipation Proclamation is probably what he's most well known for.
Yeah, I would say. I think people, the Gettysburg Address is one of the most, I think.
Oh, written, Gettysburg Address.
One of the most written down speeches in all of history. So I think that is a known thing. But that's, as far as like things that he did, yes.
Like his actions. Yeah. I would say it's probably obviously freeing enslaved people, or declaring that they should be free, as we all know from civil rights history. That didn't actually, it's not like it happened right away or anything, but I would think what he's most well known for is probably that and preserving the Union, and obviously the South not succeeding in seceding. That's a tongue twister.
Well, both. They didn't succeed and they didn't secede either. So neither
exactly.
one. But
and then so I'd say those are, I don't know, in my mind those would probably be the two things he's most well known for. And then just if you know his story, it's kind of like a rags to riches, like America type story. So I'm sure people, know it for that too. But it is very fascinating. And then obviously his life did not extend much beyond that, because in 1865 in Ford's Theater, as you mentioned earlier, he was assassinated by a Confederate sympathizer, John Wilkes Booth. So yeah. He didn't die immediately though. I think he died the following day.
Yeah, it was
he lived for a little bit after that, but obviously not long. Very fascinating president, martyr, historical figure, whatever you want to call him. He was just a fascinating human in general. It's very interesting to learn about the different things that shaped him and shaped his decisions.
Yes.
And obviously people still talk about him today.
Yeah.
It's very well known, like today in pop culture. So,
Um, so I have so I kind of did a little bit on the pop culture around Abraham Lincoln. So he is the most written about figure in American history. More
hmm.
than 18,000 books have been written about
Oh
Abraham
wow.
Lincoln. There's been a ton of movies done about him, poems, everything.
Hmm.
Obviously, I can't go into everything because it's just there's so much of it. But
Hmm.
there was an article that I found that was titled, it was from IGN. It's something like the 13 most ridiculous things that Abraham Lincoln has ever shown up in. So we're going to go through a few of those because I thought it was more fun than just going through a bunch of random
Hmm.
things. So, Nikki, did you know in
Hmm.
1961 Abraham Lincoln appeared in an episode of The Twilight Zone?
No, I did not.
Okay. So, this is kind of dark too. I'm going to start by saying that. This
Oh.
episode of The Twilight Zone is kind of dark. So, the apparently the synopsis, the episode was called The Passerby. And
Mm.
it happened. It's a wounded Civil War soldier and a war widow realize they're on the road leading to the afterlife, and they've already been killed in the bloody conflict, and they are wandering through to the afterlife when one of the last people killed in the conflict ends up being Abraham Lincoln after he's assassinated at
Mm.
Ford's Theater. That's one that they come across,
Wow.
which is a very interesting concept to
Yeah,
do
it is.
with that.
Mhm.
Um, he also starred in an episode in 1969. He was on an episode of Star Trek.
Huh.
Because he was apparently a personal hero of Captain Kirk. Um,
Interesting.
he was in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure in 1989. He's appeared in episodes of. Um, he's appeared in the Lego Movie. He's appeared in episodes of Batman, Robot Chicken, Futurama, and then a few years ago, I'm sure people remember that there was a whole movie, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. So you've got those kind of random.
I remember the Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
some kind of um, random things that he's been a part of and included in. Most of the time, though, he's kind of he's portrayed as like a hero, like a very very honored as a president
Hmm.
or a person.
Yeah.
But and this is I don't know if this is a fun fact. I've got a couple other fun facts, but actually Abraham Lincoln was the first, and this is it's been a long time since I've talked about Disney on this, and I'm proud of myself for that. But I'm going to talk about Disney for a second.
I think it's been like 2 episodes.
Has it? Okay, well, we're going to talk about Disney for a second.
Okay.
Abraham Lincoln was the first human audio animatronic that was ever built. It was
Mm.
built for the 1965 World's Fair
Hmm.
because Walt was very infatuated with Abraham Lincoln.
Hmm.
He was created with help and money from the state of Illinois. For
Hmm.
you can still see the show. It's called Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. It is at Disneyland in California. But they took a bunch of his speeches and kind of meshed it into one speech that he would stand up and read at the show.
Hmm.
And there is reports. Obviously, this was 1965, so they didn't really have video recordings or anything like this. But there's reports that he was so realistic looking and that people would throw coins at him trying to make him flinch because they didn't think he was not a person.
That's funny.
So Abraham Lincoln has,
I feel like I would do that. I would fully
yeah,
believe he was real
yeah.
and conspiracy.
So, there you go. Abraham Lincoln has, been a thing for a long time. He's been kind of like he's almost transcended, I feel like, in the United States being a man, and is kind of almost become like a deity or something else.
Yes. Yeah.
He's become something else. I mean, he's
Hmm.
he's got a monument in DC he's like 4 stories tall, sitting in a chair.
Hmm.
Like, I've been to several
Yeah.
of the monuments there. The only other one that's close to that size that I know of is the Martin Luther King one, which is a big statue that's
Hmm.
made out of stone. But all the other
Yep.
ones are just like relatively normal size. Like, he's a beast though in that thing. Like,
Yeah. I would say, I mean, preserving the Union. Now, I mean, yes, people could argue, well, because the South is so weak as far as organization and different factors there, any president that was president at the time could have preserved the Union. But I don't know. I don't know. Obviously we weren't there, so I have no idea, and I don't know what it would have take took to keep the nation together at that point. But
yeah.
um, and I'm not going to get into politics nowadays, but I think that he is revered because of preserve. I mean, it is a very American story.
Mm-hmm.
Preserve the Union, rags to riches, like very, as I said earlier, it's a very America story.
Mm-hmm.
And then him being assassinated for everything he did for our country. I think that made him a martyr
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like a very I don't know, I feel like just talking about him is very melancholy, almost like his entire life, him and Mary Todd's life was melancholy. And that's almost how I feel when we talk about him, when you go to the museum. Um, yeah, it's very interesting. I feel like a lot of pop culture things he's in is not as melancholy as his like real
You
life
mean
story is,
you
obviously.
mean you don't think that Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter is melancholy?
No.
Okay. Well, I think it's time for facts.
Yeah.
Okay, Nick.
Okay.
You want to go first?
So,
Okay, go for it.
yeah, I have a happy fact.
Okay.
Everything else has been very melancholy, but
Mm-hmm.
this is happy. So, he loved animals.
Mm-hmm.
He had tons of animals.
Mm-hmm.
Um, cats, well, and also his kids had animals too. Cats, goats, dogs. But one picture I love, I'll have to post this on Instagram, is his dog Fido, who was a yellow, like mixed breed lab type dog. Um, there was a picture of a really cute picture in the museum, and then I found it on Google Images as well. It's so cute, little Fido. He ended up staying in Springfield, Illinois when he went off to be president, but um, in his letters and everything, he's very much known for Fido being his favorite pet.
Was I may be off on this, but it seems to pop into my head too. And again, this is not a fact. So we're insufficient around here. Don't take this as being my fact. But I want to say that at some point I heard that Lincoln was the first president to ever get his photo actual photo
Uh,
taken.
you are correct.
Okay.
Well, his inauguration, he was the first photographed inauguration.
Okay. There was
Yeah.
something with that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, like specifically if he's the first president photographed, but it was the first photographed inauguration.
Okay. Look at me.
Yeah.
Hey, look at me. My fun facts. I actually found 2 of them. They're both from Lincoln's library from his website, library website. One, this says he remains the tallest person to serve as president at 6'4", which is kind of tall for somebody living in the 1800s, I feel like. I always think of those people as being short. So 6'4" is pretty tall. And two, he remains the only president to ever hold a patent.
Yes.
He had an invention
for like lifting boats or something?
Lifting boats over obstructions in the water.
Interesting.
Which kind of goes back to you talking about how he was very intelligent. I don't know. I kind of want to look up and see what this patent is to like, what is it? What does it mean lift boats over obstructions in the water? Like, did it like, what did it do that lifted them over the obstruction while it's in the water?
Yeah.
Is kind of what I want to know.
This says it used adjustable buoyant air chambers or buoys to raise the boat's draft, allowing it to pass over shallow areas.
Huh. Okay.
So it's more of like a shallow water thing, it seems.
Okay. Interesting. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Fun. Look at you being a smart president, Mr. President. Okay.
Yeah. He was a very interesting guy.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Well, I think that is it for this week. Hope you guys enjoyed this. If you didn't, then I don't know why you're still here. But, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment. And if you want to hear something in particular, let us know down in the comments because we will for sure talk about it. Because, we don't have that many good ideas. We just don't. But we'll take yours and use them for sure. So yeah, but we'll talk to you guys next week.
Bye.